Yo, what's good, YouTube? We're back with another video. Today we're going to be reacting to our NBA players getting too good at basketball. Our generation of basketball is definitely better than Jordan's era. Jordan didn't go against as tough opponents, not as skilled opponents, not as offensively powered opponents. As our generation, we have people doing things like Jokic, who are shooting threes with his head turned to the side behind his head and making it. And you got people like Curry shooting threes every game and then running the other way before they go in. So, you know, it's a good question to ask. This video is by Jamie Highroller. Try to see what he thinks about it. Please like, comment, subscribe. Trying to get 4K. I don't know if I'm doing February this month. Also, I was gonna say that I don't know if I am. I may not. I'm gonna introduce a new video idea though in February, but I don't know if I'm gonna be doing the consistent thing that I usually do in February. But we'll see. But yeah, let's get into it.
In 1998, Michael Jordan finished his last season with the Bulls on top, as inarguably the best player in the world, with another NBA championship to back it up. And in that season, 26 years ago, Jordan averaged 28.7 points per game on 46% shooting from the field. Now, not only was his scoring average a league high that season, his shooting efficiency was considered excellent at the time. In fact, outside of a couple big men who played 5 feet out from the basket, there wasn't a single player who could compete with him as a scorer. But times have changed, because this season, there are 7 players across the NBA who are averaging at least the numbers Jordan did in his final MVP season.
Shout out to Aaron Fox.
But there are not 7 players as good as Michael Jordan was in the NBA right now.
True.
Is there? Are the stats of today's NBA inflated, not a true reflection of the skills and abilities of its players? Or have NBA players gotten too good at basketball?
That's a good question. Sponsor?
Today's video is sponsored by Draft.
Actually, I don't draft. I mean, DraftKings, you can sponsor me, but I've been losing my parlays recently.
In basketball,
so
there is one main objective.
I'm not trying to do any drafts.
More points than the other team.
Facts?
Sounds simple enough, but it's not. And generally, there are 2 ways you can go about this. Play stifling defense and keep your opponent's points as low as possible.
Facts.
Or get buckets. NBA teams of today tend to lean towards option number 2.
Get buckets.
They've gotten really good at it. Teams scoring 120, 130 points on a regular basis, even 140-point games, oftentimes occurring on the same night.
Nutty.
But for many NBA fans who grew up on an NBA where point totals looked like this, they are not a big fan of all the scoring. They don't like it. There's too many points, or maybe not enough defense. Stat lines like this used to have the NBA world on fire for a day or 2, but now they're literally a dime a dozen. There's players around the league who are damn near averaging these numbers. Growing up, I would often go to Portland Trail Blazers games, and as much fun as it was to watch my home team play the most violent version of basketball possible without any real consequence, the real prize in my 8-year-old brain was this: a free chalupa from Taco Bell. All the Blazers had to do was score 100 points. Win or lose, 100 points, and the chalupa was ours.
That's average
Doesn't
now.
look like much, but winning one of these felt like winning the lottery. We would get so riled up over the prospect of a free chalupa that many nights the crowd would just lose sight of the game altogether and start chanting chalupa as the score approached 100. But tragically, after 14 seasons, the Blazers discontinued this delicious promotion in 2013. And I think it's safe to say it's never coming back. When Taco Bell first began running this promotion, the Blazers were scoring over 100 points at home about 11 times a season, or about 1 in every 4 home games. Attainable, but still rare enough to keep the thrill of it all alive. But by 2020, the Blazers scored 100 points or more in 39 out of 41 home games, enough to put every local Taco Bell out of business. Is this entire monologue really about chalupas? Kind of. But I say all of this to emphasize just how much scoring in the NBA has exploded and shows no signs of slowing down. NBA offenses in today's league are really good. Back in 2015, the Golden State Warriors reshaped what a potent, efficient offense looks like and led the league that season with an offensive rating of 111.6. This season, that same offense would rank 26th in the league. only ahead of 4 atrociously bad teams. A decade ago, in 2014, the league saw a combined 24 occurrences of teams scoring at least 130 points in a single game. This season, there have already been 85 occurrences of teams scoring at least 130 points. And the league as a whole is on pace to have about 265 of these games by the end of the season. That's
already
more than 10 times more than the league had back in 2014. Now, a lot of fans assume that the insane point totals we're seeing around the league today are simply a byproduct of stat inflation. The game is faster, no one cares about defense, every other shot is a three-pointer. But it's not just inflation. Inflation would assume that it's just the volume that's changing, that there are more things happening within every game and that's what's leading to the influx in numbers. But it's not that. Other than the dead ball era, right now is a pretty average time in the league in terms of pace and shots. It is the efficiency and simply how good players have gotten that has really skyrocketed. The dead ball era of the NBA, as the name not so subtly suggests, was an era of slow, physical, grinded out basketball, where games would finish with a final score that, without exaggeration, resemble a halftime score in today's NBA. If we look at the timeline of the NBA and the amount of points teams have scored on average over the last 65 seasons, it's not hard to pinpoint where the league came to a grinding halt offensively. This valley right here, from about 1997 to 2006, is a visual representation of just how slow and drawn out offenses became throughout the dead ball era. And thanks to new rules such as a shortened shot clock on offensive rebounds and innovations in offensive schemes, and of course the evolution of the three-pointer, offenses are now alive and well again. But contrary to popular belief, it wasn't just a change in the rules that favor offense that spurred this explosion in production. Players also just got better at scoring the ball.
Facts.
Because here is the league average effective field goal percentage throughout that same time span. For decades, the league as a whole floated somewhere between 45 and 48 effective field goal percentage.
Now it's above 50.
And with little change in efficiency, it was the pace that more or less dictated how productive offenses would be. But over the last decade, the league has gradually become better and more efficient at scoring the ball, reaching a league-wide average effective field goal percentage of nearly 55% over the last few seasons. Now, of course, with more threes, efficiency inevitably increases almost at a linear rate. But today's players also turn the ball over less than ever before. They shoot free throws better than ever before while shooting less free throws than ever before across the board.
So they're pretty much saying LeBron is going against a tougher... I'm not going to bring that in it, but it is facts, though. He is going against harder, more offensively skilled players than back then. And still keeping up with them, too.
Players are simply better now than they were in past eras. And this becomes clear when we look at the league average offensive rating over the last 50 years. Even when we level the playing field and look at offensive production per 100 possessions, today's teams are vastly superior than their predecessors. Just 20 years ago, teams were averaging just 102 points per 100 possessions. Today, that number has jumped all the way to 115 points. Same exact pace, same number of possessions, far more points. Now, more points from more proficient offenses is not exactly what I would call a problem. In fact, I think this brand of basketball, whether you like it or not, is the highest form of the game that we've ever seen. But as we continue to see the game evolve, it is becoming more and more difficult to keep the context of what we're seeing intact. Luka Doncic is a generational talent, one of the best players in the world. And 20 years ago, Tracy McGrady was one of the best players in the world with a similar status among his peers. Except in his prime, McGrady's numbers looked like this. And over the past 5 seasons, Luka's numbers look like this.
Almost a triple-double average.
Is Luka
Nutty.
really this much better than a prime Tracy McGrady was? Or has the game and its players evolved to the point where stats have almost become some arbitrary measure of a player's ability, where without context, they are almost meaningless? Now, some of you may be saying, well, this isn't a fair comparison. Tracy hit his prime in the dead ball era. teams and players in general put up less numbers. Well, here are their stats when we adjust them to be the same exact pace and the same number of possessions. And still, it's only when we factor in the rule changes, the spacing, the schemes, the drastic change in overall league play style that we can even begin to get the full picture, which kind of defeats the simplicity of a box score altogether. Or what about De'Aaron Fox? Fox is a great player, but the 30 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists he's averaging right now on 58% true shooting is a historically great stat line.
That's nutty.
In fact, it's so great that if we exclude the last 5 seasons, the only guards in the history of the league to average these numbers in a season were James Harden, Michael Jordan, and Stephen Curry. Are the numbers simply deceiving us? Or is De'Aaron Fox really this special? 10 years ago, in 2014, guess what LeBron James and Kevin Durant had in common? They were the only 2 players in the league to average at least 25 and 5 a game that season. 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists used to be sort of a standard for a fantastic all-around player. In today's league, there are 16 players around the league averaging at least 25 and 5.
Wow.
How exactly do we reconcile the fact that what used to be a threshold reserved for mega offensive talent is now just another stat line? And this is happening all around the league right now. Tyrese Halliburton is averaging 26 and 12.
Well, Tyrese is not.
66%
I mean, come on.
shooting this
Tyrese, come on now. Tyrese is on a on a team that is lacking offensive talent, and he is one of the only real hoopers on that team. Now they have Pascal Siakam, so now they have some help. But come on now. like, of course he's gonna drop numbers like this, especially if you're nice. So.
Line that has never been achieved in the history of the league. Are there really this many generational talents in the NBA today? Or has offense just become diluted? Well, I actually think these massive numbers are a product of both of these factors, one stemming from the other. There is so much talent and firepower in the NBA today that getting good looks and getting them quickly has actually become fairly easy. Sure, there's essentially 8 more possessions a game in today's league compared to the previous era, and those extra possessions are driving numbers up a bit. But does anyone stop to consider why there are more possessions? Games have been sped up because no longer are teams running 20-second offensive sets and eating up the clock to find a good open look. This drives up the number of possessions each game, and those possessions just feed the loop even further. Great offense leading to quick possessions, leading to faster games, leading to more points. Defense today isn't terrible. Players have just become too good at offense. Offense has been the driving force and the primary emphasis on the league for a decade now. And over that decade, the game has evolved, and so has its players, with play styles tailor-made to wreak havoc on defenses.
That Brandon ankle breaker is so nutty. He didn't even look at him. He didn't even know he fell. That's the crazy part.
Has its players,
let's replay that real quick.
Play styles tailor-made
to
wreak havoc on defenses.
God.
Over the years, great offensive players have proven that once your offensive game gets to a certain point, there's only so much a defense can do to slow it down. And
I mean, look at the Thunder. The Thunder are straight offense, bro. Straight offense. And they're hooping. So, this is proof.
Instead of there being a handful of these unstoppable offensive players in the league at any given time, like we saw in previous eras, there are now dozens of players of this caliber all around the league. In the 90s, it was Jordan, Malone, Hakeem, D-Rob. Not just good offensive weapons, but truly elite. In the 2000s, it was Kobe, T-Mac, Shaq, Iverson. The 2010s had LeBron, Durant, Harden, Curry. But now, in the current era of the NBA, these elite offensive weapons are everywhere. Embiid, Luka, Giannis, Shea, Durant, Fox, Curry, Booker, Mitchell, Tatum, Jokic, Trey, Halliburton, Maxey, LeBron, Dame, AD, Edwards, Kawhi.
Notice how he said
LeBron, Brunson, Kyrie, Sabonis. All of them legitimately unstoppable
in today's era
talents from night to night. And that's just the highest tier. It doesn't even include guys like Morant, Zion, Bane, Markkanen, Ingram, Cam Thomas, Randall, Jaylen
Cam
Brown,
Thomas is a
Kat,
hooper,
Sengun,
bro.
Scotty, Garland, Paulo, Siakam, Butler, Mikal Bridges. The league is more talented now than ever before. So how do you stop all that talent? You don't. You just try to keep up. Between a massive change in the way young players are being taught to play the game, to new advanced analytics that have opened the doors to the best statistical options for teams around the league, to advancements in health and training regimens that have allowed older players to be at the top of their game longer than ever before, all factors building up to what has become the most loaded pool of talent in NBA history.
Like, the defense isn't bad. It's just the offense is just... the offense is crazy. Like, the defense is good. Our generation of defense is not lazy. We have good defenders. It's just when you hoop every single day and you play basketball and all you practice is offense from when you're young, and then you watch players like Jordan and you take film, and then you watch players like LeBron, and then you end up in the league, and then now you're taking all of those players and mixing it into one, and you got people like Anthony Edwards. People calling him MJ. Anthony Edwards. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, not even, I don't think he's top 10 averaging in points, and they're already comparing him to him. So play styles and film and practice, and you can't really stop an elite offense with elite defense. Offense is what gets buckets.
But how do we know when it's gone too far? Look up just how much teams are scoring these days, and you'll also be met with a slew of angles.
Especially also if your team, if you have 5 tough players that are averaging like above 15 points a game starting on one team, it's very hard to stop that. Like, you guard one and you lock one up, and then you got 4 others that are like dominating. So it's a lot harder.
Angry fans, mourning the loss of the game they once loved. After the dead ball era, the league has taken so many steps to boost offense that maybe they've overcooked the recipe. Maybe there's too much offense in today's league. But is all of this offense artificial? A product of rules that simply push for more offense? Or have the skills and small nuances used by offensive greats in the past been optimized and perfected in players of today? Were defenses bad for letting Michael Jordan average 30 a game in a league where entire teams only average 90? In arguably the toughest time to score a bucket, Kobe scored 81 points on the Raptors. Was that team simply the worst defensive team of all time? Or was Kobe just that unstoppable offensively on that night? Good offense will almost always beat good defense. And right now, there's a whole lot of good offense in the NBA. And it's not a bad thing. In fact, it is a reflection of just how much better players have become and how the game has evolved. The only real downside to all of this, no more free chalupas.
So, is that the video? Yeah, that's the video. Bro, because that's also, I was going to say something else. The refs, the good defenders of our generation now are players that just hurt people. Like Dylan Brooks, who plays aggressive. Patrick Beverly, who plays aggressive, are like known as defenders, but they're literally just people who play like they want to like foul you and stuff like that. Like, they play good defense, but it's more aggressive. And obviously refs don't like players who play more aggressive in this generation. They want you to be soft. They don't want you to touch anybody. You can't hand check anybody. When they dunk, you're supposed to let them dunk. You can't really touch the ball, really. You can't get up in the air. You can't, like, is that, I think all of those are factors too that he didn't really go over. But definitely I think refs being less lenient and letting the offense do what they want, and the defense is meant to protect the player. I think it all stemmed from that one Kawhi injury. Ever since then, and the Draymond Green incident, what happened with Steven Adams, refs have just said, yeah, we're not putting the offensive players in danger. So if you're on offense and you look like you were doing the right thing, and the defense looks like they hit you a little bit off and threw you off balance just a little bit, yeah, we're gonna call foul. So that's definitely a part of it too. But hey, we are in a very offensively heated era. Maybe there'll be a defensively heated era soon. Who knows? Maybe the next star will be known for straight lockdown. You don't know. So, yeah, we'll see. But like, comment, subscribe. Comment down any other videos that you want me to react to. And I'll see you on the next video. The next video might be February, or it might be another one before that. I don't know. So, we'll see. But yeah, subscribe.